Welcome back to Dominating a Man's World, the podcast dedicated to highlighting women in male dominated industries, brought to you by the disaster experts at Bulldog Adjusters. In today's episode, I have someone very important from Morgan & Morgan. Her name's Amy Gallagher. Amy, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, let all the listeners know what you do at Morgan & Morgan, and tell us a little bit about them.
Hi, good morning, or hello. My name is Amy Gallagher. I work for Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group, and pretty much I am the event director slash marketing coordinator for their property damage industry or division. So I get to go and travel around and make sure people are getting the help that they need to restore their properties.
That's awesome. That must be cool. You're constantly traveling, meeting new people, networking.
Oh yeah, all the time. Right now I'm in Utah.
Well, that must be nice. How's it over there in Utah currently?
It's beautiful. The weather's great, not a cloud in the sky. So I'm excited to go explore a little bit.
Awesome. And how did you get started in this position? Is this something you've done before? Or is this something new that you're doing with Morgan & Morgan?
So the legal industry is something that was very new to me. I just signed on with them about a year and a half ago, but I've been in property damage since 2014, working for an indoor air quality company. I also was an event director for a nonprofit called the Restoration Association of Florida. So I've always been involved with property damage, but then we just took it to the next step and I joined the law firm. So, and then from there, we've just built the division out.
That's awesome. So you were a part of the industry before Morgan & Morgan, and then you just, so the fact that you've been in this industry for so long, I know we're safe to say it's a male dominated industry. What have you experienced, within these years, knowing that it's a male dominated industry? Like, what have you experienced as a female in this industry?
You kind of really have to make sure that your voice is heard, or else you're gonna be pretty much talked over or not taken seriously. So you need to be really firm with what you say and how you present yourself, and just make sure at all times, like, you know what you're saying, because that's ultimately going to be like your foundation for the industry. Is you want to just know what you're saying is truthful and honest. And with men, it's like they have, kind of in a sense of an overpowering, whether they try to or not. So it's always just be really firm with what you say. And that's pretty much what I've stuck to in this industry. And it's helped me really excel.
When you first started, were you already like this powerful? You already had this confidence, or it took you a while to gain this?
Absolutely. I started in this industry as a receptionist in property damage. And then they told me after like a couple weeks, you have too much personality to just sit behind a phone. And from there, began the world of events, and traveling around and pretty much going after, I hate to use the term storm chasing, but those are one of the biggest things that happen that destroy properties are hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding. So any natural disaster event is pretty much where we go to. And yeah, so started out from there.
No, that's great. I'm the same. When I first started, I started as a receptionist for Bulldog Adjusters, and after a few weeks, they were like, "No, you can't just be a receptionist," and then you slowly start climbing the ladder up. But I started the same way. I feel like sometimes confidence just comes within the person. Um, you know, I could just be answering the phone. I was confident. I had no idea what I was saying about public adjusting at that time, but I knew I sounded confident on the phone. I was like, they're not here right now. This is what you need to do. I think it sometimes comes naturally, and sometimes, it does get gained through many experiences and things like that.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, and then eventually you made it. Yeah, like because I came into this industry knowing absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah. No idea. I remember one of my bosses sat down next to me one time, and he was like, let me explain appraisal to you. And he just started talking all about appraisal, and I just stared blankly at him. I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm just trying to answer the phone right now. But Amy, when yeah, when you were younger, did you ever imagine you were going to be in an industry like this? What did you think? What did you want to be, before?
Absolutely not. I had no idea that I would be in the property damage industry starting out. I went to college just for my normal AA, and from there I was going to do a business degree, and kind of just went in a different direction because I found out I could make more money working in the restaurant industry, and that's where I came from, was the restaurant industry. So I think that's where my personality comes from, is just always being around people. Um, but yeah, it's pretty much like that.
I had a feeling we connected in some ways more than others. The restaurant industry, I feel like I have this theory that if you work if you've ever worked in the restaurant industry and succeeded, you could for some reason succeed in our industry because I also came from, working as a server, as a bartender, and then I transitioned over to this industry. So ever since then, I've always told like Aaron and Vince, like, I have a theory, and it's if you succeed in restaurant industry, you can succeed in ours. Because I don't know what it is. I think it's because you're multitasking, you're doing everything so quickly.
Great training.
Yeah, like you're constantly trying to make conversations, like networking. I don't know. I think it all kind of connects in the transition, like from one to another. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Always having to pretty much talk to people, make sure they're taken care of. So you really build that confidence being able just to talk to a random stranger.
Oh yeah, especially at the bar. You're trying to get your tips, so you're constantly making conversations on the spot with with all the regulars. Like, and I don't even know what I would talk at that time, but like things would just come up, like the weather, sports. Especially I worked at a sports bar, so I never knew I knew so much about sports then at that moment. Don't ask me anything now. but that's awesome. So, our industry is always changing. What do you think what is something you would like to see change next year or in the next couple of years in our industry?
More or less, I would love our industry to be more qualified and trained, just more professionals out there with our industry. It goes for every industry. There are a lot of bad apples. So the more training, the better, the more qualifications, the more background checks, the better. So when you recommend that person to maybe like a homeowner or any type of property owner, that they're who they say they are. You know what I mean? So I would just say more training and more background checks and regulations just to weed out the bad apples, I would say. Because there are a lot of people that think that they can, it's like the fly by nights. They just think they can enter the industry and then open a roofing company the next day, and that's how easy it is. Not how easy it is. So, yeah, I would just say that training and qualifications.
And in terms of women in our industry, what would you like to see differently in the upcoming years?
More women owned companies. There's not a lot of women owned property damage companies like restorations or roofing companies. I probably know maybe a handful. So I would just love to see that aspect grow for women. It's just more women taking the lead and starting their own businesses because you determine your own success. And I think being a woman and owning a company in this industry, you're only just gonna skyrocket because there's a lot of need for it.
Okay, no, I agree. Definitely to see more women in, roofing and water restoration. I know there is a lot of women public adjusters and attorneys. I see that definitely on the rise since I first started to now. I definitely see more women public adjusters, definitely more women attorneys. Business dev, I kind of always, see that on the rise as well. But that's cool. But definitely if I could see them more in roofing and like I have yet met, so, like a water restoration company owned by a woman. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't come across one yet, but I would love to see more of them. I think it'd be great to share, like, be able to exchange leads and things like that. And knowing, it's true what you said, if it's owned by us, it may definitely skyrocket.
Women are great at, like, that's why I always say, like, behind a powerful man is a woman running the show in a sense because we're the organizers or the creators. We're the pretty much keep the company in checkers. So I always say it's like when I go to these trade shows or I go to these meetings, I never really want to talk to the men. I go straight for the females that work at the company because I know that they're running the show ultimately. Or the guys are more decision makers in a sense, but the women have more the organization and control for it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I always feel like behind every great company, there's always a great woman right behind it to help out with the organization on the back end, everything. I feel like we're also like a good buffer. Like for instance, here Bulldog has two owners, so I always feel like I'm that buffer between them. Their one strong opinion, their second strong opinion. I'm like, tone it down. Let's combine them. This is how we're gonna move it forward. This is what we're gonna do, and I think it always helps, honestly. So share with us, Amy. Share with us, share some great moments you've had in this industry. Share with us your worst moment too. I would like to hear both.
I would say one of the latest accomplishments was being the panel moderator for the Storm Ventures Group conference in Louisiana. I was put on a women's panel, so that was a really big achievement for me. That was really cool. First time I've ever been on a women's panel, so that was really something for me. Milestone, I would say, in the industry. One of my worst moments. Okay, it's kind of cheesy, but when I first started, I did a lot of event directing, a lot of sponsoring and lunch catering. And one time I kind of just didn't order enough food for this large meeting that we had. And so they got a bunch of angry roofers that didn't get their breakfast. So I had to pretty much make like 50 back and forth stops to Chick-fil-A and back.
This podcast is powered by the disaster experts at Bulldog Adjusters. As public adjusters, our team has helped thousands of homeowners across the country recover millions of dollars in their property damage insurance claims. We're proud to bring you this podcast and hope you enjoy listening.
I've had great moments all the time. I think from the moment I really started, I don't know. I can't really say. I think every moment is great. And every day and every year, there's something new that comes out in the industry, a new great experience, something that we could do to, step up, be different, events. You meet great people every day. I really don't have a bad moment. But if I really do need to pick a bad moment, I think it had to be at, some midpoint into, hurricane season, between all the claims coming in, all the clients. As much as you're trying to make every client happy, there's just clients that ultimately you cannot make happy. And it kills me sometimes because they're not understanding where you're coming from, and you're trying to explain to them over and over, this is what it is, but just try to understand what I'm trying to tell you. I know what I'm doing, and they just don't understand. They think that everything you're doing is horrible, and I'm like, oh, it's just a sense of frustration sometimes.
Oh, yeah. There are those customers out there.
I should have mentioned, when we said about changes to be seen in the, in upcoming years, from our perspective, from a public adjuster, I would love to see further education for these clients and insureds and things like that, because I feel like they just don't know.
Oh, absolutely. How much, you buy insurance and you don't really read the fine print because when you start reading it, you have no, that's why you hire Bulldog Adjusters or Morgan & Morgan pretty much to review, because a normal homeowner or a normal policyholder is not going to be able to understand any of that. I don't even, for the most part, but I'm not an attorney or an adjuster. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge one. I would love to have homeowners more educated about their rights as a policyholder, because that is something that they don't, the industry needs, because then there's going to be a lot less frazzled customers and they'll feel more comfortable with the process of everything.
And I know we mentioned this before as well, but now that I kind of started to think about it, I know I'm gonna go backwards a little bit, but as we kept talking, I started to think about I wonder why we don't see more women in these water restoration companies and roofing. I wonder what it is that could be stopping them from starting something like this. I know I'm going a little backwards, but the more we talked, I kind of started to think more to it. I'm like, I want to know Amy's opinion on why you think they don't do this. Why don't they take the challenge? Why don't they go for it? Is there any advice you would give them? Do you think they should do it?
Absolutely. There is a lot of money. I hate to say that. There's a lot of money in this industry to be made. Why not have a woman run water restoration company? Why I think there's not a lot of them, I can't really speak on for everybody, but me personally, it's probably in Florida, it's just really hot, and it is a male dominated world. So maybe they're just afraid to take that leap into the industry just because it has been such a male dominated industry. But as we keep going, more and more, there's more and more women every day in this industry. Since I've started, I have so many girlfriends now, and I love it just because when I first started, barely anybody. Barely anybody. So it's really fantastic to see how far we have grown.
I agree. Every day I make more and more friends. just you. I had never met you before. I believe we met like a few months ago, and I think you're great. And like just like that, I meet new people every single day, and it's lovely. I love to have friends. I like to go to shows now more than I used to before. Before it was like a drag to me, like, oh, I gotta sit there and sell our services to all these people. Now I'm like, I can't wait to go see XYZ and see them, and it's been a while and things like that. So it definitely gets more exciting each and every show that that is made now and things like that. What do you think that you do, Amy, that others are not doing, that other women in this industry are not doing?
Just taking the leap and talking to people, because that is how you build your network. Networking, I tell people all the time, I was like, I don't really do marketing. I call myself the connector. I know a lot of people, and so if I know somebody, if someone needs to be like say Joe needs a water restoration company, I know a lot of water restoration companies. So it's more or less just talk to everybody. It couldn't hurt, and you may find that like one good account that just you guys click and just skyrocket from there. Pretty much just take the leap and talk to that person next to you. That's what I do. Nobody's a stranger in my world.
That's definitely good advice. You heard it, ladies. Take that leap. Don't feel bad. Just talk to them. You never know, that person could one day become either a lead for you, a potential client, or even a friend. Definitely in this networking in our industry. You guys heard it there directly from Amy. That's what she does to stand up above the rest. I know that, I've also been talking to Amy. We've had previous discussions about, maybe trying to come together, create an event for women, maybe like a one-day thing where we could all come together. And, not only would it be educational, it'll be informative, and, it'd also be a relaxing day where we could have, different vendors with wine and things like that. So you should definitely be looking into that. Stay tuned. We're really trying to plan it for all of you ladies out there in the industry. And then at the end, maybe of the event, then the men could come in. But we really wanted to just be women only at the beginning. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. We're also going to, eventually I'm going to be looking to see who else wants to join and participate with us. And, we'll just put it together. I think it's really going to help. And, we're also talking about change in the future. Maybe this definitely helps in having women see what we do and how we're a part of this industry, and help them be part of this industry as well. Amy, you have any advice for, all the women and the men listening as well? Because men do listen to the podcast. So do you have any advice for them?
Just don't be afraid. If you're already thinking that you want to do something, do it. It couldn't hurt. The worst you could do is pretty much not have it go through. So just stick to what you think is right, and then normally it will be very successful for you. There are a lot of amazing women in this industry that are willing to take you under their wing and show you guidance, and just be a sponge. Take as much information and hold it, and just be a sponge in the industry. You can never learn too much.
You guys heard it here first. Be a sponge. I'm sure they'll remember that. That is very good advice. I'm gonna make a shirt with that. Be a sponge. Awesome. So tell me a little bit of where we could find you, where we could come in contact with you, how we could find Morgan and Morgan, if for anybody that's interested.
Yep. So we are on all social media channels. You can look us up just by doing For the People, FOR the People. Our website is www.forthepeople.com. We're one of the largest law firms in the United States. So if you're in Florida, I'm sure you've seen our billboards. But yeah, forthepeople.com is the main way to access us. But we're huge Facebookers. So yeah, all social media and forthepeople.com, best ways.
That's awesome. You guys made it very simple. For the people. You guys made it very simple. For the people. That's awesome. Well, it was a pleasure having you, Amy, on this podcast to learn a little bit about where you come from, your background. You're definitely being a sponge in this industry. You're definitely great at networking and what you do. Every time I see you anywhere, you're surrounded by everybody. So you're definitely living up to your advice. So women, it works. You got to do what Amy does. So, No, of course. I know we're gonna see each other soon, hopefully, in the next upcoming event. I don't know which one it's gonna be. There's so many of them.
So many.
So, wait, too
Las
many.
Vegas, I think.
Oh, that's right. Vegas it is. Can't wait. I heard it's a pretty, really, really big event. So I'm looking forward to it.
Where I think 5,000 people are expected to attend, I believe.
I actually heard more than that. I heard like somewhere close to like 12,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's wow. That's huge.
That
Not even in the realm.
yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if it may be like held back a little. I know people are still like a little about COVID and stuff, but that's what I heard. Sometime like that's how it was, like 12 to 14. I know it's crazy. I think the biggest show I've gone to has been like 4. So to see 12,000 or like something around there, that's just crazy.
I do have one little more piece of advice. Join a bunch of Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups filled with knowledgeable people all over the United States and the world for that matter, that if you have questions about anything, there are so many people that are willing and wanting to help you. So join Facebook groups. That's a huge one for me too. There's a lot of networking to be done in those groups.
Oh, you're right. I do agree. I know that I'm part of a lot of them. I know that I'm part of like Harness and Heels, the Level the Playing Field, SVG one. There's so many. There's just way too many of them, but I do join them all. It's a good,
So educational.
yeah, and also join National Women in Roofing. That also helps. You do meet a lot of great people, mentors. That's I've never I forgot to mention that in my previous podcast. I'm glad that you brought this up with the Facebook groups, and I can mention the NWIR. So, are you a member, Amy?
Yes, we are members.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. So with that said, once again, thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the listeners on today's podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at DAMW Podcast. You could also find us online at www.damwpodcast.com. Dominating a Man's World is powered by Bulldog Adjusters, America's leading public adjusting firm that has helped homeowners just like you fight their insurance company to ensure they receive every dollar they deserve for their property damage insurance claims. I do not wish women to have power over men, but over themselves. Mary Shelley.